Let me in. What is up, guys? It's me, the ALEXX Prince, here to tell you guys to support Cafeína Cafe if you're a local resident in San Diego, California, or in City Heights. Remember to still stay safe. Remember, all masks are required at all times. Just be safe out there and everything. Before I get started, let me just thank you all these past couple of weeks. 2021 has started pretty great for me, not just in YouTube, but in my life in general. And you guys have been super supportive of my videos, no matter what I upload, whether it's Cobra Kai, the rebookings, the what ifs, and wrestling topics, whatever I talk about. I am confident enough to um, basically do any video I want, and you guys will enjoy it and have fun with it. Let me also say that this has been my most requested rebooking to do. So I decided, why not? Let's rebook the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. And one last thing, I will make an announcement by the end of this video, and I recommend you guys to stick around for it. And it's gonna be based on what videos I'll be making following uh, Royal Rumble and the road to WrestleMania. So let's rebook the Fiend. Where do I begin? Well, we'll begin the night after TLC 2018 when Vince, Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and Shane McMahon all came out to say that the new general manager is the WWE Universe. Whoever the fans want to see, will get. Whoever the fans want, will get. So there's that. The following week on Raw, we'll get vignettes of puppets and really creepy things going on. And then on the first episode of 2019 of Raw, we'll finally have the very first Firefly Funhouse episode. Keep that video the exact same way. Keep the very first Firefly Funhouse video the exact same way. And then little by little, Bray Wyatt starts getting more over. He wants to be let in back into the WWE because no one has seen The Fiend, or Bray Wyatt, I should say, since his tag team title run with Matt Hardy. But he wants to come back. He wants to let people in. He wants people to be let in. So hopefully by then the fans are like, let him in, let him in. People are constantly wanting him to come to finally debut, and then he'll debut after WrestleMania. So after WrestleMania, we'll have Daniel Bryan cut a promo about how Kofi Kingston got lucky. Eric Rowan I got rid of Eric Rowan because he failed me. He let me down. So now I am gonna do everything I can to come back to becoming the WWE champion. That's when the lights go out, just like how the Fiend attacks, and then you just see the Fiend hold Daniel Bryan with a Sister Abigail. He hits him with a Sister Abigail. Daniel Bryan, he's like, I don't know what the hell Bray Wyatt wants to do with me. The Fiend, who the hell this character is, but he's not gonna face him. And then the Fiend is just wanting him to be let in, and sure enough, we'll finally do it. Because the fans are the general managers. The general managers are the fans. The Fiend, or the Authority, convinces that the Fiend will face Daniel Bryan at Money in a Bank, just as one match to see what good of a worker the Fiend is. The Fiend demolishes Daniel Bryan. He just destroys him. It ends with the Fiend destroying Daniel Bryan's hair. He's just ripping his hair off, beating the shit out of him. And Daniel Bryan takes some time off to heal some injuries that he was dealing with at the time, as well as bringing back him as the American Dragon. This will be important a little bit later. But Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Shane McMahon, all of them realize that the fans, well, they are the reason why they're even a company, the fans could easily hurt the next people. So we're gonna have to get authority figures. Um, Running Raw, Paul Heyman, and running SmackDown, Eric Bischoff, and they'll be on-screen personalities. Eric Bischoff will eventually get fired, like in real life, to go to AEW, and then Shane will take over from there. But that'll be important much later. But now that we have authority figures, the Fiend is not being let in. Um, and they make a McMahon puppet. The McMahon puppet debuts, and he is telling him what he has to do to be convinced to come back. And basically, he becomes the corporate guy. He becomes the corporate guy. He gets muscles. He he basically imitates the typical Vince McMahon go-to guy, like his Roman Reigns, his John Cena's. He basically parodies those guys and does workout routines like in real life. But eventually, nothing is convincing him, so he goes back to his own ways. So at Stomping Grounds, we'll do Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship. The Fiend distracts Finn Balor. Sami Zayn takes advantage, and Sami Zayn is your new IC champion. Finn Balor wants the Fiend, so the Fiend is let in. But it's not going to be no ordinary match. It's going to be the Fiend versus the Demon at Extreme Rules. And it ends with the Fiend snapping Finn Balor's neck. But he's the demon, so this is their way of saying that the demon Finn Balor is dead once and for good. No more demon Finn Balor. So he's done. Around this time, Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton are feuding. Um, yeah, Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton are feuding, and it ends with Kofi Kingston winning with the help of the Fiend because Randy Orton and the Fiend are fighting next because Randy Orton's goal is to get rid of the new generation, and Fiend is trying to get rid of the old generation. And hell, at Raw Reunion, he parodies the Legend Killer by actually. The night ends at Raw Reunion with all the legends. They're all drinking beer. They're all having a good time, and it ends with the Fiend just beating the shit out of all of them. He beats up Stone Cold. He beats up the $1 Million Man. He beats up everybody who was in that arena, in that ring. And Randy Orton's like, wow, people who I at one point attacked, and you want my attention? You got it. It's Randy Orton versus the Fiend uh, at SummerSlam. I was almost gonna say Summerfest, but that's never gonna happen. No, no, no. The Fiend beats Randy Orton, but it ends with Randy Orton actually liking this this feeling of like this defeat. He loves it so much that he goes back to the classic Legend Killer, which we'll go back to later. Um, so if you guys should know, like something else that happens at SummerSlam, because Kofi Kingston faces Randy Orton at Extreme Rules, he has to have a new opponent. So he'll face Brock Lesnar um, in the main event of SummerSlam, which will be good. It'll be a legit competitive match, not that 5 minute squash, that 5 second squash match at SmackDown anniversary show, whatever that was. But that means what's going to happen with the Universal Championship picture? So AJ Styles becomes Mr. Money in the Bank, cashes in on Seth Rollins after that mixed tag team match. And then it's Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles at SummerSlam. And Seth Rollins becomes the Universal Champion. Around this time, the OC are having beef with Braun Strowman. So Braun Strowman wants to destroy the OC, and Seth Rollins has beef with the OC as well. So they tag team and they become tag team champions. In return, Seth Rollins gives Braun Strowman a Universal Championship shot. And Bray Wyatt is watching this from his TV saying, like, look at those two. They think they're going to love each other. But then they expose Seth Rollins. They bring back those shitty tweets that Seth Rollins did with Will Ospreay and John Moxley. They talk about how Braun Strowman was a bad co-worker. He was always late. This is real stuff. Like, if you guys are wondering why Braun Strowman was poorly booked around this time, because one, he was a bit of a prick, and two, the guy is just like was just a bad employee. He was just at a bad time, and Bray Wyatt will expose these things on the Firefly Funhouse, and then the main event, a Clash of Champions, after Seth and Braun lost the tag team belts. They fight for the Universal Championship picture, the Universal Championship match, and the Fiend attacks Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins. The lights go out, and then you just see both of his hands on both of them in the mandible claws. Braun Strowman has to be taken off TV for now, and then he'll come back on the draft, or he'll be drafted to SmackDown. That's important later. But Seth Rollins realizes that he doesn't care what the Fiend thinks. He doesn't have to fight him. He's a champion. He does not need to fight some monster. He'll make fun of him. He's like his fake Kane, fake Undertaker, and this and that. And because AJ Styles never got his Universal Championship shot, we'll do AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell inside the cell, because they don't want the Fiend to possibly interfere, as well as the OC. So, but that doesn't stop them. The Fiend comes out. Um, you'll see. Hopefully, this could work. But the lights go out. The lights. Well, you'll see the Fiend um give the mandible claw to Seth Rollins. The lights go back up, and the cell is all destroyed. Like, the cell's still there, the Hell in the Cell's still there, but it's like all destroyed, all demolished. AJ Styles gets up confused. Um, he goes to do the phenomenal forearm. Seth Rollins gets distracted. Boom, he hits it. 1, 2, 3. Um, AJ Styles becomes the Universal Champion once again. The cell goes up, but it's all destroyed and stuff. Hopefully, it could work. I don't know if they could have the money to do it, but it will be a very cool visual. They could probably do it now because they could do cinematic matches, but if they could do it with a live audience, it would be very fucking impressive. But Seth Rollins says, like, all right, Bray, you want me? You got it. Pick. I'm letting you in. That's what you want? Fine. And then after I'm done with you, I'll go back to my world title picture, whether you guys like it or not. He's talking to the fans, which will eventually turn Seth Rollins heel, like in real life. So at Crown Jewel, it's The Fiend versus Seth Rollins in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Keep everything the exact same way except the red lights, because the red lights never happen. That never fucking happens. It was stupid, and it should have never been done. But we keep the match the exact same way, where Seth Rollins throws the Fiend into all these lights. They explode. Seth Rollins thinks he won, but the Fiend gets the mandible claw and he wins. And yeah, after this, the Fiend is drafted to SmackDown, where Paul Heyman is still the GM of Raw. Eric Bischoff around this time is fired, but he'll replacing him will be Shane McMahon, not Bruce Pritchard, that fucking idiot. But at Survivor Series, we'll keep the match the exact same way, the men's Survivor Series match, the Team Raw, Team NXT, Team SmackDown. We'll keep that match the same, but the only thing I would change is that Braun Strowman gets eliminated when the lights go out and he just disappears. Like, there's no explanation to it. So afterwards, um, Roman Reigns and Keith Lee, we keep everything the exact same way minus Braun Strowman's elimination. He'll get eliminated thanks to Fiend. And then Braun Strowman wants the Fiend next. So at TLC, it's the Fiend versus Braun Strowman. The Fiend wins. Braun Strowman is taken off of TV. He does not come back until WrestleMania. I'll explain what he does next afterwards. Um, but now the Fiend wants to go Hollywood. He's a big star. He is a mega star. People are all over him. Like, if we could get people outside of the wrestling bubble, like non-wrestling fans, to talk about the Fiend and Bray Wyatt and stuff like that, then he did a good job. Because next, he'll go to the Super Bowl because John Cena is promoting Fast and Furious 9. And then Bray Wyatt, not the Fiend, the Bray Wyatt will come out as a fan saying, like, yeah, I want to face, you should face the Fiend at WrestleMania, and John Cena's like, okay, what the hell? Like they play it off. It'll be funny, and then on Twitter we'll have people tweeting John Cena like, how come you're not fighting the Fiend? And then John Cena is like, because the Fiend is not a a wrestler. He's just a joke, and basically John Cena talks him down. Then on Jimmy Fallon, we'll have John Cena get interviewed. He talks about whether or not he'll come back to wrestle. He said he's done. He doesn't need to wrestle anymore. He's proven himself from time to time. He believes he's done. He needs to let the new generation rise up and take over his place. He believes that a lot of people are doing it, but he's done wrestling. And then later in the show on Jimmy Fallon and John Cena do a skit. They do like a segment, and then halfway through the segment, the Fiend, the real Fiend, appears, has the mandible claw on John Cena. The fans are like shocked. What the hell just happened? And this will get people talking. I don't know why the fuck WWE doesn't go beyond and do stuff like this. Well, they'll connect their feuds with other segments, and trust me, this will get eyes glued to the WWE. This is how the fuck you bring ratings. WWE, take some fucking notes. And then John Cena says like, yeah, you embarrassed me on Jimmy Fallon where kids were watching this and that. You got my attention, Fiend. It's gonna be me and you at WrestleMania. One more match to finally end you. Little does John Cena know is the end of his time. So at WrestleMania 36, I'm gonna have John Cena versus Bray Wyatt, the Fiend Bray Wyatt, in a one-on-one match. But every time the Fiend hits the mandible claw, he weakens John Cena. He keeps weakening John Cena, and each time he hits the mandible claw, he goes back down to old characters. He'll go to the Doctor Thugonomics, and then the final thing you'll see is John Cena as the 2002 debut against Kurt Angle, like him going ruthless aggression. Um, and it will be fun to have him wrestle like those characters. Like, how cool would it be in the beginning of the match when the first time he hits the mandible claw, he'll come back, he'll rise above it and bring back the springboard stunner for one more time, because we have to evolutionize and show off all of John Cena's old moves and old characters just to say goodbye to him once and for good. But the final mandible claw that the Fiend hits, John Cena disappears, because he could do that because of COVID, and they could do this. This will be a very cool cinematic match where they'll just like bring him down. So that would be cool to do. And then the Fiend makes John Cena disappear, which will definitely get people invested even more. Now you're probably wondering, what does everybody else do who has fought him? So we'll start with Braun Strowman. So after King Corbin and Elias have that segment where King Corbin throws Elias from the barricade, um, King Corbin is set to face Elias, but he never shows up. Instead, Braun Strowman takes his spot, comes back as a monster, and just destroys King Corbin in like a second or two. Um, so Braun Strowman is back as the monster. Roman Reigns was supposed to fight the Universal Champion AJ Styles, but because Roman had to take some time off because of COVID, he stayed home, take take care of his family. Replacing him, unfortunately, will be Goldberg, because SmackDown's gonna need as much money. And if you could get a lot of people invested into the Fiend, like the way I just did, I'm pretty sure you could afford Goldberg for until August at least. Hopefully. Um, so AJ Styles versus Goldberg, where Goldberg will become the Universal Champion, hold that belt until SummerSlam, where he'll fight Roman Reigns. In the spring, he'll fight Braun Strowman. That's whatever you like. But Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens keep that the same, where Kevin Owens wins and then he'll go to NXT. Kevin Owens goes to NXT, and then Seth Rollins will book him the exact same way he was in 2020, because that was honestly one of the best stuff of 2020. Randy Orton faces Edge like in real life. Because the Boneyard never happens, this will be the main event of night one, Edge and Randy Orton, because it'll be good to have some nostalgia back into people's hearts. And Edge wins. Hopefully the match isn't as long as it was in real life. It'll probably be 20 minutes at best, or even 15. Um, so there's that. And Daniel Bryan, because he's the American Jack, he's just a workhorse type of person. He'll fight. He'll fight. Can't speak. He'll fight the Intercontinental Champion Shinsuke Nakamura. Like of my rebooking of Shinsuke Nakamura, check that video out. But I'll book him. I'll do Daniel Bryan versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and trying to think. And then Finn Balor just goes to NXT. Um, So yeah, that's what everybody who he's fought up to this point do. But that night, the SmackDown after WrestleMania, the Fiend is upset that he destroyed the people's hero, but he wants to be now the the kids' new superhero, like John Cena was. Like they do parodies of him in cereal boxes. It's like a spooky ass cereal box, like a Fruity Pebbles, but there'll probably be something else. But he realizes that there's more people that need to be taught a lesson for screwing him over. So his next opponent will be Triple H. Why Triple H? Because Triple H promised that the NXT up and comers were gonna be megastars like Bo Dallas. Um, I'm trying to think of a lot. There's a lot of names I can't think of, but Bray Wyatt is one of them, and Bray Wyatt's like, look at all the talent you have screwed over since they come back to NXT. You let us down, and now it's time to take you down. So at the anniversary SmackDown of Triple H, the final segment is Triple H just getting applauded by a couple of people who could stand by until the Fiend attacks him. At the end of the night, the final image you'll see is the Fiend attacking the Fiend on top of Triple H. No homo. And Stephanie McMahon. One more thing. Paul Heyman and Shane McMahon switch from Raw to SmackDown because Paul Heyman will be a great writer for SmackDown and a good GM for SmackDown. And Shane McMahon, I feel like he fits more Raw, anyways. And Stephanie McMahon's like, Paul Heyman, what the hell are you doing? Like, you can't control your show? He's like, yeah, I can control my show. Don't tell me what to do, bitch. That would be awesome to see Paul Heyman do. But basically, Paul Heyman's like, you know what? I'm actually kind of glad that the Fiend did what he did to your husband. Someone needed to teach you guys a lesson. So clearly, this is a fight between the Fiend and the McMahons. But Paul Heyman is gonna do nothing about it because he doesn't give a shit about the McMahons. So because Triple H refuses to accept a match with the Fiend, he goes to NXT and takes down the future of NXT. They even have a stare down between the Fiend and Finn Balor, which would be cool to have in NXT. But Triple H says enough is enough. You made this personal, Fiend. You want me? Fine. Yes. I'm not gonna do to. Yeah, Vince and Steph and Shane, they may have screwed over the talent of NXT, but me, I'll bury you myself. So at Summerslam, we'll do the Firefly Funhouse now because it will be good to. I'm not the biggest fan of the Firefly Funhouse, but I think it works kind of. So I would have Triple H enter the Firefly Funhouse, and then he'll just kind of see like all of the people he buried. He will bring back Hunter Hearst Helmsley. It'll be a great visual, and it'll just be a fun, exciting match. And the Fiend beats Triple H, obviously, and this will retire Triple H for good. So he has retired John Cena and Triple H. His next opponent, The Undertaker. Now, because AJ Styles is the Universal Champion, he never faces The Undertaker because Undertaker should not fight for a belt. But the last match we'll have The Undertaker will probably be the Extreme Rules match. It was Shane and Drew versus Roman and Taker. That'll be the last match we'll have, and then Undertaker could say that he realized that was not that bad of a match, but it's time to hang up the boots. The Fiend refuses, so at um at what's it called, at Survivor Series, we'll do Undertaker versus the Fiend. in a graveyard match, because that's a better name than Boneyard. I love the Boneyard match, but graveyard sounds more cool, I guess. So Undertaker and the Fiend, and we'll do the same thing like we did with Cena and Triple H. We'll bring back his past gimmicks, the Ministry of Darkness, Biker Taker, the American Badass. Um, we'll bring back the Zombie Taker. We'll bring up everything, and then we'll see the streak and everything, and then there's one more. Um, there is one more like graveyard, and it's like a coffin where it says Undertaker: The Last Ride, parodying his documentary, and then the Fiend gets the mandible claw Taker, throws him into the coffin, buries the Undertaker, and that's the Undertaker. So the Fiend has retired John Cena, Triple H, and the Undertaker. Next up, some guy who seems pretty directionless, and that is Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy is upset that Undertaker's a guy who made him a star because he'll bring back that ladder match from 2002, Jeff and Taker for the title. Jeff Hardy realizes that the Undertaker made him a star, and now he's gone thanks to the Bray Wyatt. So Bray, get your ass over here. And Bray is excited because while Matt is not available because he's in AEW, he could take out his frustration with Jeff. So this is really a Matt feud without Matt Hardy being there because obviously he's in AEW, um, getting his ass kicked by Sammy Guevara of all people. But at TLC, we'll have a Firefly Inferno match, Jeff Hardy versus The Fiend. And Jeff Hardy's going to be the first person to burn. He's going to be the first person to burn The Fiend, but he doesn't beat him. Instead, Jeff Hardy is he's getting the mandible. He has the mandible claw on him while the Fiend is on fire, and the Fiend is so excited. He gets the fire, all of the fire that's on the Fiend. Hopefully, this could work because it's a cinematic match, but all of the fire just evolves and burns Jeff Hardy. Like, if that makes sense, to give you that visual. So, like, all of the fire that's on the Fiend, it gets on Jeff Hardy. The Fiend, while all of his jacket is like all kind of burned up, but he's not on fire anymore. Instead, Jeff Hardy is on fire, and that's the final visual you'll see at TLC. Jeff Hardy set on fire. Obviously, it will be a dummy, but Jeff Hardy will come back to WrestleMania as Will the Wisp because Jeff Hardy has been dying to get Will the Wisp um, on freaking WWE. Goddamn, I'm spaced out. But now we move on to his final opponent. Now, at this point, the Fiend is destroying SmackDown. He's just like, it's not Paul Heyman's visual, and even though he let him go after the McMahons, Triple H specifically, he realizes that he made a mistake, and Stephanie and Paul Heyman have to team together to destroy the Fiend. And Stephanie McMahon's like, well, what do you think? Who do we get to destroy the Fiend? I know who I'm gonna get, but you're not gonna like it. At WrestleMania 37, when crowds come back, it's gonna be Bray Wyatt versus CM Punk. This will be the perfect way to bring back CM Punk. First of all, uh, they have Bray Wyatt, the Mr. Rogers Bray Wyatt, come out. Stephanie and Paul Heyman come with a contract. They give him a signing for a match at WrestleMania. And Bray Wyatt's like, who's my opponent going to be? And then he's like, you'll find out at WrestleMania. That way people think it's Brock Lesnar, but it's not. Instead, it's CM Punk. People are going to be shocked. And whether or not you want CM Punk, CM Punk to retire after this, it will be good to have him at least have one more match and him be the one to destroy the Fiend. Stephanie McMahon can accept that CM Punk, after all the wrongs he's done, he's willing to bring him back just to fix what SmackDown was. And because CM Punk was the guy who made WWE relevant again, so it makes sense to bring him back again to make him just relevant. And this will be the final cap off to the Fiend. Um, and CM Punk beats him. It'll be a cinematic match if you want, but I think this one could just be a one-on-one match because that way the Fiend doesn't have to do his thing. Like that way it's a disadvantage to the Fiend that he can't use his powers, and the fans will be marking out for CM Punk anyway. So CM Punk beats the Fiend. That's the end of the Fiend, and then Bray Wyatt will come and revitalize himself as something new. So what do you guys think of my rebooking of the Fiend? Was I right to let him in the way I did? Let me know. It's me, the ALE Double X Prince. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And until then, I'm out. Finally, I get to talk about this. So my big update, one of the updates, I almost forgot, but my update is that this will be my final rebooking for now. Following the Royal Rumble, I will be doing a new series called WrestleMania Debates, where I will be doing some debates of whether or not certain things should have happened at WrestleMania or not, or what have you. Certain matches that should have happened, certain moments that should have happened, stuff like that. WrestleMania Debates. It's a new series. It will be coming out following the Royal Rumble. The first episode will be the Monday morning after the Royal Rumble. So stay tuned for that. I will also be reviewing the Royal Rumble and give you some predictions when I finally get the whole card and everything. So stay tuned for that. And now, one of the biggest things, I'll be coming back to doing movie reviews. I'll be starting by reviewing Superman, the Man of Steel, because I'll be doing the DC movies leading up to the Snyder Cut. So stay tuned for those. It's me, the ALE Double X Prince. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And for reals this time, until then, I'm out.